I'm always loud. Isn't that right, ladies and gentlemen? Always loud, always loud. All right. So good afternoon. How's everybody doing? I'm excited to be here with you all today. Can everybody hear me well? You can just put it in the chat if you can hear me. Everything seems to be working on the technology side so well this morning or today. Better than the first one. Yes, I know. I am very loud. It's just a fact of all the years of working to project my voice to the back of the room, and so like I can't see you, and yes, Dawn, you do work for someone that is louder, and so at that point, you know, you're projecting your voice to the back of the room, and so yeah, when you're getting it to the back of the room, you got to get it up there. It's part of the energy. So yes, I've actually had people come around the office and say, "Can you please tone it down a little bit?" And I was like, "Hey, you know, that is what it is." So here we go for today on we're covering chapter 7 and we're covering chapter 8 of the millionaire managing the millionaire real estate agent's office. And so just real quickly, I would like to go through. Let me pull this up here real quick so we got this on here. Image. Let's see. Let me go to get logged in here so that we can all see it and while we're pulling that up. So does anybody in the chat while we're going through, I'd like to kind of just cover, because again, my intention is always to bring as much value to you. And I know that as of yesterday, when I went in and checked the homework, we had not had as many people actually doing the homework yesterday. So just wanted to check and see, you know, where we're at, what's going on, where people's challenges are, where, you know, are you still finding value? Are you finding any challenges so that we may be able to help you through any of those challenges that you are having? So if anybody has that, you can just post them in the chat window there. And I'm gonna pull up the homework here real quick. Week 3. All right, so the responses. So yes, our homework participation went way down this week, and we went from about 30 to 40 people actually filling out your homework down to 9 responses this week. And so that's a huge shift from where we had been. Let me pull this up so I can share my screen here and let everybody kind of just participate in. So share screen, and let's see, right here, Google Chrome. All right, so now everybody can see my screen. Here's the responses that we've got. So summary of responses, the total cost of tangible errors. We had damaged reputation. We had $100,000, $31,000, $81,000 on a recent bad ISA hire. That's huge. We got $54,000. We have $1 million. In all honesty, some of these lower numbers are probably close to that $1 million mark when you really think about it. And sorry, didn't understand the assignment, so that's my bad. I apologize on that one. $200,000 to unlimited, $36,000. The cost, so we've got the intangible cost, management or morale and turnover, $158,000. $90,000, 1 million, 200,000 plus, 26,000. And so let's see, scrolling down here. What limiting belief is holding you back? I must be perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, I see that a lot of times. That's one that pops up a lot. And Diana always tells us that done is better than perfect. You know, you get it done and it's much better than perfect. Talent is hard to find. That is definitely a limiting belief because talent is always out there. I'm not learning fast enough. Again, that can be a limiting belief because what you believe is that you're not learning fast enough to keep up with the pace of the leadership that you're doing. And so in bold, we have this cycle in bold. It's called your growth, your character growth leads you to personal growth, which then leads you to personal success. And so that character growth is just knowing the right thing to do. And that's where you're learning. Right? When you know the right thing to do, that is your actual character growth. And then over here on the right-hand side, your personal growth, that's actually doing what you know is the right thing to do. And then that leads you to personal success. And so if you're not growing, you're not learning, or you believe you're not learning fast enough, then that's going to hold you back. And even if you truly are learning fast enough, and you still believe that you're not learning fast enough, it's going to change the way you make decisions. So watch that. Fear of job loss when enforcing accountability with the rainmaker. Yeah, you have to be careful on that. That's a lead up type situation, and not push to the point where it's a confrontational talk, and having that honesty there. Let's see, easier to do work myself. It's not achieving my goal fast enough. Easier to do it myself, and the amount that I can have on my plate. All right, so all things there. Everybody looks like you got, weak communication, constant mistakes. Those are all stress, burnout, unusual amounts of stress, degrading employee morale, happiness, dependability, stress. So there's that stress. See, keeps showing up. Everybody received value on it. It turned out. Now, here's the part that I love. These are the parts, because this really kind of tells us what we're talking about here. So ahas from this week calls. We are in the process of growing a team, and I'm onboarding new admin next week. So this has been a good reminder about job fit. We're going to talk a little bit more about that today as you're going through the process. Hugely eye-opening to see the opportunity cost of loss of business for a team member at $108,000 that we know of. Man, it's powerful. Goals can be missed without harming the business. Standards cannot be missed without harming the business. Huge. Talent versus non-talent, struggling currently with filling the bench as we speak. And see, the bench may continue at their current job. They don't have to leave their job to be on your bench. See, what you got to know is that you got to know that at some point, everybody that is on your bench, you could actually call them up and have a conversation with them and say, now I've got an opportunity. Are you ready to fill this opportunity? The more people that you have to call and say, hey, I now have an opportunity, the better chance you've got of getting higher quality talent. We'll talk about that today. Let's see. I can read people better from the information on today's webinar. Awesome. Eagles don't fly with chicken. That was huge. They do not. And be prepared to anything to avoid losing time and money. So awesome stuff right there. All right. So here we go. Let's see. We've got to do the homework. In the same boat as Mary. Let's see, received the invite to do the series, so it didn't have a chance to do the homework. I understand that. Yeah, we are still adding people to these calls as of today. I mean, this morning I was still adding people to these calls, getting emails out for people that are still looking on and sending them the past webinars. So some people may be catching up as well. So today we're going to start on page number 89, and we're talking about allied resources. So we're on right now we're in chapter 7 of managing the MREA office, and we're on the allied resources concept. And so we're talking about allied resources right there in the very first top block. What you have is, what is an allied resource? And I think there's really some misunderstanding on what an allied resource is. See, a resource is someone within your network of connections who can provide you with a list of names and candidates, not just everybody that's in your database. See, that is not an allied resources. An allied resource is someone that can, will, or has sent you business or referrals in the past. And that's rule number one. So the qualifications of an allied resource, number one, is that they've got to have influence in the community and influence with their network. If it's somebody that doesn't have influence, then they're probably not an allied resource for you, because their network may not be big. They must be respected by other people. See, if they're not respected by other people and then they refer you to them, then they're probably not going to be the type of person that's going to send you a high quality candidate, because they're probably not going to know that many high quality candidates. They must respect you, and they also must respect the methods of the way that you do business. See, like if you're a team that has been built on referral business, then that's one thing from a team that's been built strictly on expired and for sale by owner lead generation and working towards more of a referral business. And so they must respect your business practices there. They must respect what you are doing and what you're building, which means if they're going to respect something that you're building and you're doing, guess what? They actually have to know what you're actually doing to actually respect it. And they must see a benefit for themselves, for their business, or for their network. And when I was studying for this and preparing for this, I'd never really thought about that last piece there. What benefit is it for somebody to send me a referral? And I'm actually on page number 89 in chapter number 7 of managing the MREA office. And so on that, when we're looking at that, they got to see benefit in doing it, making it a win-win, as we talk about within Keller Williams. And remember, here's the cool thing. We say win-win or no deal. Guess what? Without the deal, there is no win-win either. See, it's got to be a win-win or no deal, and without the deal, there still is not a win-win. So if nobody comes to agreement, there's not a win-win there. Always remember that. So the importance of recruiting through allied resources, and we're just going to go through these lists down here at the bottom. It's active recruiting, meaning it is ongoing, always and constantly ongoing. It provides you access to candidates quicker because, see, now you don't have to get out. You don't have to get ads up and running. You don't have to do this. All you got to do is send an email to someone and say, hey, who do you know, right? It saves you time. It saves you time. It decreases the need for extensive screening. Now watch this. Get this really, really good, because this is the one that most people are going to miss here. That does not mean that you get to circumvent the career visioning process. See, just because it decreases the need for extensive screening does not mean that extensive screening is who you're getting to. You're not having to do personality profiles with people. You're not having to do screening calls with people, because when there are people coming to you, you're automatically putting them in the process and then following the model. All right. Build your image and reputation. Ooh. So you got to watch on this one, because if you're always recruiting, you're always growing. It's always growing, not always replacing. See, when you're always replacing, then may not be a great thing for your actual network to increase your brand and increase your reputation. And generating sell leads from other business opportunities. Are you truly generating sales leads because you're actually going through and actually doing the process? So let's talk about where to look for allied resources. On page number 90, they've actually given you some sources there that you could use. Now, I'm going to ask you, and this will not be in the actual homework spreadsheet, yet this is going to be part of your homework, is to come up with the allied resource of 20 people. 20 different people that are allied resources that meet the criteria that we talked about before. They have influence, they're respected by other people, they respect you, they respect your methods, they respect what you're doing, and that you can bring a benefit for them by sending you a referral for somebody that's looking to get into real estate. So allied resources, existing agent base. If you got people on your team, are you holding them accountable to actually bringing you a referral? See, because if they were on the ALC, the team leader of the office would be holding them accountable to bringing them a potential referral for recruit. And so are you holding your team, responsible or accountable to actually bringing you a recruit to join your team? See, because if you worked at Black & Decker and you absolutely loved working at Black & Decker and you thought it was the best company in the world, and you knew somebody that needed a job or somebody that was looking for a job or looking for a new opportunity, would you tell them that you worked at Black & Decker and to get in touch with the human resources department? Absolutely, you would do that. And so what you need to be doing is that you need to be teaching your agents on your team to be doing the exact same thing for you. All right? Now, customers, clients, KW leaders, contacts, real estate educators. That's a big one. When was the last time you took a real estate instructor that was instructing the new licensing program to lunch? Right? See, there's the thing. Start looking at that. Medical professionals. Everybody, when they start moving into the area, they're looking for doctors, those kind of things. And so you can be a benefit and refer business back to them as well. Bankers, stockbrokers, builders, respected competitors, right? See, I used to work for another company before I came to Keller Williams, and when I worked for that other company, when I started my team, I would have agents that worked at that company that would send me leads and say, hey, if you're looking to get into the real estate, you need to go talk to J. Michael. See, because what he's going to do is he's going to spend time to teach you on how to get to where you need to go, and not just leave you right there. All right. So talk to your team leader. Now here was the cool one. I'd never seen this formula before as we're looking at this. For every 20 people that you have as a top allied resources, guess what? Each one of those, when you got a hire that you need to hire for, they should be sending you 3. So if you have 20 times 3, how many actual referrals should you automatically get every time that you engage in your allied resources? Ladies and gentlemen, that's 60 potential candidates. If you've got 20 allied resources that are in your top 20 and they're sending you 3 candidates a piece, that's 60 as soon as you turn on that allied resource. Now we're talking about we always talk about hiring top 1 in 100 talent. And so if we're looking at hiring top 1 in 100 talent, can you hire top 1 in 100 talent by interviewing 10 people? No. Yeah, I mean, you might get lucky and get that one. Yeah, here's the thing. If you're interviewing 100 people and you're taking the best one of that 100 people, guess what? Now you're actually able to get top 1 in 100 talent. See, that's most of our cases is that we're not interviewing, taking resumes from 100 people before we're hiring. And so we're having to choose from maybe the top 1 in a 10 instead of a top 1 about 100, right? Now, turn over to page number 91. On page number 91, and this was really cool because does your team, I know Keller Williams does your team that you're working with, does it actually have a company story? Does it have a company story that is actually talking about why it is great to work for your team? So this is homework, and I think this is probably homework that some of you and your megas could actually sit down and actually do together, or maybe you could do it and take it to your mega to actually filter it. As last time I had to do a bio, my EA did my bio for me, and she came to me and said, "Hey, can you approve this?" And I signed off on it, and that's the bio that we use now. See, does your team have a bio? Does your team have a company story of what it's best to work for you? So that's a really big key. Now, let's talk about some other sources. And we're on page number 92. So we're talking about other sources and candidates. People in position. When we're talking about people in position, when was the last time you talked to your agent services coordinator? Right? When was the last time that you spoke to your MCA? When was the last time that you spoke to other people that were within maybe other Keller Williams agents around the country and said, who do you know? Temporary employment agencies. This is one that I did last year. I actually hired two inside sales agents because I really, at that point, I was coaching Bold 3 days a week. I was traveling 4 days a week and not getting home until late or early on Thursday morning at like 2 a.m. And so I didn't have the time to recruit, and I had not hired a CEO or a director of growth and business development on my team to actually run the team yet. And so I was going to be the one responsible for hiring him. So what I did is I went and hired a temporary ad agency, and it was a one-man show. He had one show, so I could actually negotiate a deal with him. And I was able to negotiate a deal with him that he was going to go and find me two ISAs, and it really helped me streamline my ISA division because of that. I just didn't have the time, so I had to leverage it. I used money to leverage that opportunity. Some of you may not desire to do that because it can get a little bit more pricey, yet it is an option out there. And then you also have permanent employment agencies as well. Now, we'll talk about ads. I know we can all go on to Craigslist and we can all post an ad, and some locations, Craigslist ads for employment actually cost some money. Most of the places they do not. And yet, let's talk about some other places that we can run ads besides Craigslist. Because who goes to Craigslist looking for a job? The people that do not have a job currently. And so we're looking for top 1 in 100 talent, and top 1 in 100 talent actually, in all honesty, probably already has a job. And so as we're looking at that, you could go to Indeed.com. Now, I just ran an ad on Indeed.com in another city for a photographer for my photographer business, and within 2 days, ladies and gentlemen, 48 hours, I had over 60 resumes come in. So it's a great source there. Now, if you're looking to hire agents, there's a new company out there, and I know that there's some people out there that are on those that are using it, and I know there's some people out there maybe even be on this call that are using it, called wisehire.com. And wisehire.com, they actually go out and find agents for you, right? So it's a powerful piece. Yeah, posting it on Facebook, on your Facebook business page that you're looking at, and you had 3 people, and actually, send them a Google form so that they can actually fill out the Google form right there. You can have 3 candidates fill out a form on Facebook and be ready to go, right, and ready to roll, right? So it's a job websites, Yahoo, Google, Monster, all those places. Those all have a role when you're hiring. Now, let's come over to, on that last page where we're just talking about there. If you were all looking to hire a transaction coordinator, where it would be, and you can post it, post it in here in the chat window. If you were looking for a new transaction coordinator, where would be some places that you could actually look for a transaction coordinator? And let's think about allied resources when we post. So I'll just give everybody a couple of seconds to kind of post it into the chat. Where are some other places that you could actually look look for transaction coordinator, people that just passed their real estate exam, title companies. Yes, yes, yes. Right? So go to a title company and say, hey, at that title company, who is the actual best closer that you've got? Right? Because they won't tell you who their best closer is. They'll tell you who another title company's best closer is. And so now you got a potential of getting high quality talent that way. Title companies, mortgage processors. Yes. See, all these people could be potential ways of you could actually go out there and find more high quality talent. More high quality talent. So now we're going on to chapter 8. And these chapters, and the reason why I did these two together, because I think they flow fairly quickly, especially since Keller Williams' model has changed since this material was written. See, because when this material was written, we were actually using a product and a model called Recruit Select. And I think somebody said, Seth Campbell said it the best, in that Recruit Select was an art. And so now we have the career visioning process, and the career visioning process is a duplicatable model. And see, anybody can start going to career visioning and actually make it work for them. Whereas with Recruit Select, it was an art form to actually get the right hire. And so the career visioning has taken it up a notch. So when I ask you, and we're on page number 97, the question I've got for you on page number 97 for recruiting your plan. Now, how many people have already know how many of you or how many people you need to hire, or which positions do you need to hire for? And I'm talking agents, ISAs, admins across the board, runners, couriers, everybody that you would have across the board. Do you know every single person that you need to hire for 2018 already? So you got, yes, we have our model. Yes, so good stuff there. All right, yes, awesome. Okay, so now let's talk about this. We aren't hiring anymore for next year, right? I'm just like, whoa, we just got to wait, just get it all in line. So watch this. So if you already know who needs to be hired in 2018, and so they're part of your 2018 production, whether on the admin side or the courier side or the transaction coordinator side, buyer's agents, listing agents, if you already know who they need to hire, then let's say it's going to take us 90 days to hire that person. And the reason why I say 90 days is because we're looking for that 1 in 100 talent, and we're not just hiring out of pain, we're hiring and being purposeful to get the right one, right? So now, December, November, October. That means that we have basically 1.5 months before we are now ready to start hiring and start that process of hiring, so that January 1. Now, let me take this one step further for you and even break that down even to a higher level. Lance Loken. Lance Loken knows every single person that he needs to hire out to 2025, right? On his model to stay on his program that he knows every single person that he needs to hire before 2025. Now, what he starts doing is that as soon as 2018 starts coming, he starts looking to hire those people. Because what he's saying is that, hey, if I start searching for that talent for 2019 talent in 2018, what's going to happen is I can find the 1 in 100 talent. I can now train 1 in 100 talent. And on January the 1st, 2019, they're already up and running so that I hit my goals. He goes, I know on January the 1st if I'm going to hit my goals or not, based on the people that I've already hired and got trained for 2018 for 2019. See, now I know some of us we're running teams and we've just got our head down and we're worried about tomorrow or we're worried about next month. And yet Lance Loken, someone who's built amazing team, 1,395 transactions from 2010 to today, or it's actually to last year that he had done. Last year he did 1,395 transactions in 1 year. He just got his license in 2010. So as we're looking at this and you're going, he's got it planned out. So if he's got it planned out, he's moving that fast. Wouldn't it be a good thing if we go ahead and start planning it out a little farther as well? And so I'm going to tell you, start planning your recruiting plan. Go ahead and start hiring for your recruiting plan and make sure those people are in place, hired, and trained before the next year hits. The faster you can do that, the better off you're going to be, and the more that you can ensure that you hit your goals. Now, on page number 98, here's what we're going to do. Page number 98, your role in recruiting is to be Switzerland. Now, by Switzerland, what I mean is that your goal is to be as neutral as possible. How do I mean neutral? I mean, for some of us, for those of us that are high eyes or really, really animated people, sometimes we just need to sit on our hands, ladies and gentlemen. We need to actually just put our hands under our lap and only pull it out when we're taking a note and put it back, because we have to watch our body language. See, I know it's hard, and yet here's the thing. For me, I actually put one leg, when I'm going through the hiring process with someone, I put one leg under the other, and then I will actually put my hands on my lap to make sure that they stay right there on my lap. And I only take them out when I'm writing. Because, when somebody's saying something, I have a tendency to start shaking my head in agreement with them. And as soon as I start shaking my head in agreement to them, what that's telling the other person, the person that I'm interviewing, is to keep saying what you're saying because I'm liking it. And see, we have to start realizing what we are aware of and how we are affecting the other person with our body language, with our tonality, with our words that we're currently using. See, we can't walk into and say, oh, yeah, I love Star Wars too, And so at that point, they'll start talking and they'll start leaning and they'll start, because this is the best time that they're going to be, they'll start tailoring their conversation to what you like. And then you're going, man, this person's high quality. This person's high quality. And then the second time that they walk into the office, the first day they show up in a suit. Second day they get comfortable and they come in a pair of cutoff shorts and a Star Wars shirt, right? And they got an appointment in 2 hours. And so you have to be careful with that. You have to be careful with your tonality, careful with your body language so that you're not leading them to that place. And so I thought this was really cool on page number 98. It really kind of broke down the graph. Your definitions, what you will do, and what you will avoid. So some of the things to avoid: being biased, being manipulated by candidates. Ooh, you have to watch that one, right? Being manipulated by candidates. Taking shortcuts or winging it. Are you truly prepared? Have you gone through their resume before they're showing up so that you truly got questions? Now with the KPA process, you've got questions that the KPA process is actually giving you. Have you gone through those questions and know which questions and how to dig a little deeper and which questions you should dig a little deeper in for that person, right? Starting to jump to conclusions, right? You've had people come in and they're just, you have sometimes, and this is what happens, I'm just going to be honest. You have some people come in, they're dressed to the nines. They look like, Miss America or Mr. America. And you walk in and you're like, oh, this is going to be a great quality candidate. And so you start, basing all the questions based on that they're already a high quality candidate. And really all they do is they just clean up really well. They're not really that great of a candidate. See, I've had that happen as well on our team. And so the other thing that's going to happen now, if you have not been through the career visioning process, there's one part of this that I love, is that you have to defend your hire before the hire, meaning that you have a board of directors that are on your team or that's helping you. You've now got to defend your hire to those people. And it allows you to have a disinterested third party to kind of help you defend and make sure that this is somebody that you and your team should be hiring. Now, resume review on page number 99. This is probably the number one challenge that I see people on hiring actually do. They have no clarity on exactly what they're looking for. None, right? They go to, and I see it happen in the EA mastermind group. I see it happen in the mega agent mastermind group, is that, hey, I'm looking to hire an EA. Does anybody have a job profile? And so they start asking for job profiles. And when they ask for job profiles, what ends up happening is they send them what's the one for their team. Or they send them the standard Keller Williams one. And then you actually need that person to do way more than what you actually have on there. So you have to watch to make sure that you have clarity on what you need. See, if you're a high C personality as a mega agent and you're hiring someone, you're going to be looking for that high C as well. Potentially looking for that high C. And so if you're looking for that high C and you're hiring a buyer's agent, guess what? That may not work as well. That personality type may not work as well. So what skills? So as you're going through that resume, what skills does the candidate have? True skills. And then how does those skills match up with what you need, right? Don't just look at it and say, oh, well, that person was an admin, so they're probably going to be a good admin. What skills did they bring to the table on that admin role? And what skills do you need for your admin role? And make sure that those match up, right? On your job profile, right? Are you looking at their track record? Do they have a track record of success? Success leaves clues. Gary Keller says that success leaves clues. And so as you're looking at success leaves clues, do they have any success in the past? See, when you have success in the past, what you'll see is on the resume, you'll actually see that I was responsible for this, and I moved the needle from here to here while I was on that project. You're looking for track record of success. Well, this person's just coming straight out of college, or this person's just coming straight out of high school. Ladies and gentlemen, there's some track record of success. Did they have, B's and C's while they ran track and played football? Did they have B's and C's while they were, the first chair in the band, the first chair trumpet in the band? You're gonna see parts of their life where they excelled at a high level. See, the number one person that I personally believe that I have on my team on the admin side, she actually played concert cellist at a really high level and studied and trained so hard for that and became really, really good at it. She's like, I don't like to play it now, yet it really ingrained in her ability to stay at something for a long time and not put it down and not get tired with it and keep focusing until you get it done. And it's pretty powerful on that. You're also looking on those resumes, how long have they stayed at their jobs? Is it something where every 12 to 18 months they're getting another job? Are they getting bored with it? Are they doing things that don't meet your criteria? Or is it somewhere where you got a little bit more stable track history of actual, what they're doing, how long have been there? Educational background, remember, and we're not always looking for just education of school. We're looking for education where they went out and bettered themselves. I had a resume came in last week. When that resume came through, it said, what certifications do you have? And the person wrote driver's license, and that they had their driver's license for the last 4 years, and that was their certification. Now, that's great, and I'm glad they had that, yet what else have they done to better themselves? What else are they doing? Now, sometimes you will have people that will interview for jobs that do not have a resume, right? And so when you have people that are interviewing for a job yet they do not have a resume, these may be people that are agents. They've been an agent for 5, 6, 7 years, and they don't have a resume any longer, right? They just don't. So what you do is you actually start the process with these individuals, getting a quick list of, just some of their education and some of their experiences and some of their production levels on that. That'll help you, all right? So make sure that you're working through that. Now, we're going to talk about this, and I really mulled this over because I know in Keller Williams, we've gone away from the DISC personality profile and moved towards the KPA behavioral profile. Yet I do believe that the DISC actually still has some value there. And so when we're looking at the DISC, as we're looking at this, there's two different types. You can have the computer-based, you can have the Tony Robbins free one, you can actually have, their paper ones that you can actually order from Abelson, People Keys, all kinds of different people out there that have these DISC personality profiles. Yet as you're looking at this, doesn't matter which one you use, yet you can use it. Now, watch this, and don't, I had a lot of conversations around this over the last year. Don't rely so heavily on the DISC. The DISC talks about personality. Behavior is what you're looking for. Personality, someone can be a high I, and you think they're just the most gregarious person in the world, yet when you put them into a big position where they may not know of anybody that's in that room, they may intend to become a wallflower. Because their behavior is that when I'm not in a situation where I feel comfortable, their behavior is that I shrink back, right? Where your personality is hey, I'm a high I. I love people. I love talking with people. Yet they only like to do it in small groups. And so, yet the personality profile does have a benefit. Because what it's going to do is it's going to allow you to ask some questions. It's going to allow you to dig a little deeper on certain things. And watch this. If I have a high C, and I'm going to go through this on page number 104. So if you can turn over to page number 104, it looks like this. You can see it right here. On page number 104, you actually have the interpretation of the DISC. Now, if everybody's got to turn to page number 104, if you don't have your book in front of you, you can come back and listen to the video and actually fill this out. So what you're going to do is you're going to put at the top between the I and the D at that very top first line there, you're going to put fast and aggressive. So the I and the D are both fast and aggressive. All right. Now, let's not think about in terms of hiring. Let's think about in terms of management. When you're managing somebody and you've got a fast and they're aggressive, and by aggressive, we do not mean, in a negative tone. We mean that they are driven. Had a really hard time with that when I first was going through this. So you got somebody that's fast and they're driven or aggressive. They're willing to drive through that. Then from there, that's that I and D. When you're talking to someone or you're coaching someone and you got a fast and aggressive person, should your coaching conversations last, an hour and a half to 2 hours? No. They're going to be bored, gloss over, eyes roll back in their head, and like, I got to run, right? Now, on the right-hand side, so as you're looking at that, you got the D at the top and you got the C at the bottom. What you're going to put there is you're actually going to put thinking and task-oriented. So your high D to high C, they are thinking and task-oriented. So when you're thinking and task-oriented, so your C is a little bit more task-oriented. Your D is even task-oriented in that they love to check off. Done, done. I got it done, done, done. Next, done, done, done. And they're just walking around going, done, done. And so you got to start thinking about your D and your C when you're communicating with them. Now, the bottom line at the bottom here, you got a line down there at the bottom. You got an S and you got a C, the bottom line, horizontal line there. You're going to write steady and cautious. Steady and cautious. Okay? So between the S and the C on the bottom line, steady and cautious. I always equate the steadiness to, that emergency room nurse. Someone that they're steady, somebody's bleeding out, you got blood all over the emergency room, and they're like, honey, it's going to be okay. We've got you taken care of, right? And I'm like, ah! And they're like, it's going to be fine. Just stay with me, right? So that's that steady and cautious. Cautious, on that cautious side too. Now, between the I and the S on the left-hand line coming down, you've got relationship and people-oriented. See the high S, they're relationship and people-oriented, and the high I is relationship and people-oriented as well. Different ways. One would like to protect, and one likes to take care of and nurture relationships. The other one just likes to have as many relationships as possible in most cases. All right. And so they're relationship and people oriented. Now, I want to give you a couple of little things in here. Always remember that the high I's, and you can actually see where it says fear, the high I's biggest fear is rejection. And their key emotion is optimism. So they're always going to be optimistic. They're always going to see the world through that high quality. The D and C was thinking and task oriented. Thinking and task oriented. All right. Somebody just asked in the chat, what was the line between thinking and task-oriented? So in the high I, you've got some of their key emotion is optimism, meaning they're very optimistic, when things are going, you're like, hey, this deal's falling apart. And they're like, oh, I can hold it together. They're very optimistic. And their biggest fear is rejection, right? And so if you get into a situation where you're coaching them or you're helping lead them and their biggest fear is rejection and you're telling them no, 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 then they're going to feel rejected and they're probably not going to listen to you. They're probably going to start to shut down because you're crushing their key emotion, which is optimism. You're telling me no, and so I'm saying yes, and you're saying no, and then you're also playing into their fear by rejecting, by telling them no over and over and over again. So can you reword that sentence instead of just saying, no, we can't do that because we don't have the money? Could you say, you know what? That's a great idea. And when we have 3 more sales a month, I guarantee you that we will be able to do that. So what on your part would you be willing to do to go out there and help us get 3 more sales so that we can do that? See, changing your language to get where it's the same place, yet one causes somebody to shut down and one causes somebody to thrive. All right. So another section here on the high D, it says key emotion. They are quick to anger. They're quick to anger. And that doesn't mean that, they're grouchy all the time. What that means is they are going to be quick to snap back. They're going to be really quick to snap back. Their biggest fear is wasting time or being taken advantage of. Ooh. So when you're talking to a high D, and some of your megas may be that high D, their biggest fear is to be taken advantage of or to waste time. Now, as an admin, we got, you may have your morning huddle with your mega, and you say that huddle is going to be kept to 10 minutes, and we're going to go through this. You start letting that get to 20 minutes, that mega is going to start to shut down because they feel at that point they're wasting their time because you told them that it was going to be a 10-minute meeting. We're just going to 10 minutes, get update, go through the day, where we're at, what we need, and move forward. Yet if you start extending that out to 20, 30, 40 minutes, they're going to shut down and they're going to feel defeated because their biggest fear is wasting time. Come on down to the high C. The high C's biggest fear is criticism. Ooh. The high C does not like to be wrong. Does not like to be wrong. And their key emotions are fear and risk aversion. They're very risk averse. See, like if you're a high C and you're responsible for the money on the team, at that point you may be more risk averse to some of your mega's marketing techniques that he or she would like to throw out there. So you got to realize that the high C, your biggest fears are fear and risk aversion, and your key fear is criticism, and your key emotion is fear and risk aversion. Let's come over to the high S. When we're talking about the high S, the key emotion is they're going to hide it. They hide their emotion, right? Because that emergency room nurse has got blood all over the emergency room and she's going, honey, it's going to be okay. Inside, they may be dying thinking, oh, Lord, what am I going to do? How am I going to keep this person alive? And in all honesty, what's actually doing is they're hiding that emotion so that you don't see it. And their biggest fear is change. Change in the systems, change in the models, change in anything that we're going to, take a high S and say, hey, we're going to move this office and we're going to move you down the hall. Like, oh, here we go again, right? It's the first time you've ever been moved. And yet they're like, oh, here we go again, more change. And so watch that as you go through this sheet. I've given you all the fill-ins that are on that sheet there. Watch those as you go through. Now, disc interpretation, and the only thing that I desire for you to get from this on this disc interpretation is this right here. When you're looking at this graph, that line is the energy line. Anything that's below that line that you're having to do is causing your energy to drain. Anything that's above that line that you're doing is causing you to have more energy. So where's your energy line? If you're constantly doing things that are below your line and you're having to force it up, at that point it's going to drain your energy. If you're constantly doing things that are above the line that bring you energy, you're going to go home feeling refreshed at the end of the day. Remember, I go back to the accountant who is having to, their energy line is here, and they're actually, where they need to be is down here, or where they are is down here, and where they should be is up here. They go home and their personal finances are in complete disarray because they're using all their energy at work to do what they have to do on their job. So remember that middle line on the disc is the energy line. If you're asking somebody to do stuff below their line, it's going to drain their energy and they're going to go home sad, mad, or grumpy. Now, interviewing techniques. We go right back to check your attitude and your state of mind when you walk in the room. What is your energy in the room? As you're going, oh, I got another one of these, interviews. It's got, I got to do all this stuff. It's going to take forever. I got so much other stuff to do. They're going to feel that energy and they're going to feel your state of mind, and they're going to change the way they answer your questions based on how your energy is when you walked in the room. So you got to be willing to check your own energy, check your state of mind, and check your attitude. Now, do your best. Do your best to stay neutral, non-judgmental. Don't ask questions where you upswing on your tonality. When you upswing on a question, that's a judgmental tone. So when you're asking questions, be neutral. Be neutral. Don't go up. Don't go, where have you been? Because that's negative tonality. It's judgmental. And just say, hey, where have you been? Right? Instead of, hey, where you been? That going up causes a negative judgmental tonality, whereas if you stay neutral, it keeps it open, right? Now, be quiet and listen to your candidate. Listen to the person that's actually speaking and listen. And here's the key part. Active listening is listening for what's not being said. Where are they hesitating? Because when they hesitate, when they're in a sentence, they're looking for what to say to make sure that they get it right for what you're looking for. And so watch those hesitations. Active listening to what they're not saying. Be positive. Be confident and enthusiastic, yet make sure that you're controlled, right? If you went into a job interview with someone and you had the same energy that I had right now, that may be over the top. And so that's not gonna be what you need. All right. So stay curious. These are just some extra fill-ins down there for you on the bottom. Stay curious. Stay relaxed. Stay interested. Don't, like, if you're not interested, if you already shut this down, just bring it to a close and move on. Be honest with them. Don't drag it out for an hour or 45 minutes in a consultative interview, and if you're not even interested in them any longer, right? Stay open-minded, be objective, and always remain professional. Always remain professional. Don't talk about going and getting margaritas or anything like that. Stay professional. All right, come on over to interviewing techniques. Interviewing techniques. We're going to come down to maintain clear input channels. So where you got 3 fill-ins there. Number 1 is be able to see, hear, and feel what is happening out there. Right? Know what's going on. Don't get just triggered by the candidate. Like they say Star Wars, and you're like, oh, I love Star Wars. It's the best thing since sliced bread, right? And then you come down here to the next one and say, know the selection system. There's a process. Like I used to have an admin that would actually put the full process on the front of the folder, and she would make me sign off on every single piece that I did it to make sure that I didn't circumvent the process. It's a process, and they need to know that this is a selection process and not everybody makes it. See, a lot of times when people hire at companies and you come in for an interview, you're like, man, I got this. And yet this is a selection process. It's just one of the processes to get hired here. All right. Now, make sure that you establish a rapport very quickly with people. When you're establishing a rapport with people, what you're doing is you're mirroring matching the candidate's language, their tempo, and their body language. Because the more that you can get that person natural, the more that you can get them in rapport, the more likely you are to get their true self. See, anybody can hold it together for an hour. Anybody, I mean, you can fake who you are, for an hour. Yet it's hard when you start to get relaxed and you start to build rapport with that person. It is very difficult for them to maintain that. So don't get triggered by the candidate. Triggered by the candidate. Thank you for answering that, Heather. Appreciate that. So always, be cognizant of your breathing. Be cognizant of the other person's breathing. If you start to see that them breathing really heavy, you may be asking them some questions that they're really not desiring to answer, and that may be where you really need to dig deep. Maybe really where you need to dig deep. Now, anytime that you're looking to probe a little bit deeper, somebody says, well, I worked there for 5 years and this is what I did and that. So ask some additional questions. So some of the things that you get asked is, well, tell me more about that, right? Tell me more about that. Can you elaborate a little bit more on what you actually did in your role? And this is Gary Keller's favorite. He says, and just ask them for more information. I'll never forget, I was interviewing to be on Mega Camp, on stage at Mega Camp one year. And when I was interviewing with him, I would, I think I'd talk too much. And so I start slowing down my speech, and I'd get ready for Gary to jump in there, and he would just go, and I would just pick right back up. And so, you have to get them talking to the point where you're listening and not talking to them. You're listening to what they're actually saying, and then active listening for what they're missing or what they're leaving out as well. See, don't just jump the gun and start answering your own questions, which we have a tendency to do. Sometimes we will jump the gun and start answering our own questions for them. And you've got to remain Switzerland. You've got to be neutral through that process when you're in that room. You should not be able to, when they walk out of that room and they should not have an idea if they're getting the job or if not, or even if they're a top candidate yet, right? Because you've not brought them to that role, that part in the role yet. Now, let's go on down to active listening. We've talked about this. What are we listening for when we're active listening? We're listening for pauses. Yeah, here's some cool things that you've got some fill-ins on there. You're listening for patterns. You're listening for patterns. If every time that they start to slow their rate of speech, you hear an or you hear an and, or you hear a so, what you're doing is you're seeing there's some patterns there that are in their vocabulary that if they're in sales, you may have to work through them. All right. And is it to the point? I'll never forget, I worked for a company and we were in sales, it was real estate. And the guy that was in the cubicle beside me, every third word was I mean, literally every third word was and not And so what we would do is in the whole room, we all could hear it because he was louder than me, and you could hear all those ums. And you would start to hear the chuckles running across the room of this guy's every third word saying So you got to start listening for those patterns that you're hearing. Listen for omissions, and that's where people start to hesitate, where people they'll start a conversation and then they'll look away, and because they're thinking, they'll look up and go, what am I thinking? What am I getting ready to say here? What do I need to say here to put my best foot forward? And let the candidate do most of the talking. We kind of talked about that. So number 3 on page number 109 is let the candidate do most of the talking, not you. Your job is to listen. Your job is to listen. Their job is to talk. If they stop talking, you ask questions to get them talking again. All right? So active listening. Listen for the patterns, listen for the omissions, and let the candidate do most of the talking. Let the candidate do most of the talking. All right. Now, this is one that it gets a challenge because it's we used to have to go through and call much more people. With the career visioning process, we got it really streamlined now when you're going through and checking the references. Yet you're going to predict their future by predicting their last behavior or hearing their last behavior from the people that they use as their references. All right. And remember, always go 3 deep. Always, when you're ask for a person, you're going to ask that person for another person, ask that person for another person, and ask that person for another person, so that you're truly getting 3 deep in knowing somebody that they may not have put on their reference sheet, yet you're finding something else out about them, right? I've heard horror stories in career select classes and career visioning classes where people had actually found as they were going through and got to 3 deep, that the person had embezzled $100,000 from the previous company. No one else had told them, yet the third person that got referred to them to call, that's the person who told them that they were embezzled $100,000 from the company they worked for before. So make sure you're always going deep on your things, on your references calls. Now, page 111, we're skipping that because guess what? We cover the career visioning process now. There's a couple questions in here. Let's see. So do you suggest having them take the DISC and the KPA at the same time? I do not, because the KPA, for some people, if you're hiring an agent, the KPA may be the most stressful thing that they've ever done, right? Because if you're hiring a high buyer's agent and that they're taking that KPA, and then you're going to ask them to do that KPA may blow them out of the water. Right? And so don't put them together. What I like to do is I like to do the DISC up front and use that as a filter. Use the DISC as a filter to get them down into the process. It's just another filter along with, yes, the KPA is eerily accurate. I mean, I don't look at the actual, the numbers or any of that stuff, or the job matches. Yet when you start reading through the details, man, those details are eerily accurate. I mean, it's crazy accurate when you read through that. I mean, my DISC says one thing, my ABA from the old recruit select process said a completely different thing. The KPA nailed it down and got it 100%, brought both of those together. It was crazy. All right, so we got a few more minutes here. Is there any other questions that anybody has? Anything that you need, anything that we're not covering on these calls that you believe that we should be covering on these calls based on this program? Because again, my goal, in all honesty, is to continue these on Thursdays throughout time. So that we've got all of those other programs, the MREA, contract to close, the listing manager, the servicing buyers. We have all of those that we posted in the EA group. We're going to start covering through all of those. And my goal is just to continue these on Thursday for you, bringing you as much value as possible. And really, in all honesty, the only thing we ask in return is that we are in Greenville, South Carolina, the upstate of South Carolina. So we cover from the North Carolina border to the Georgia border in South Carolina, all the way up to the North Carolina border above us as well. So the book that we keep showing, that's in one of the previous emails, or you can go into KW Connect. KW Connect, and you actually type in MREA admin right there at the top. Let's see if you can see that, MREA admin, and that will actually get you to all of the resources that we're using for this class. On some of the previous emails, if you've been with us for a while, those resources are all in some of those previous emails as well. And yet, best way to get them, I think, is to just go to KW Connect and download them yourselves. All right. Any other questions? Where can we find interview questions for a TC? So your interview questions for a TC, guess what? They're going to be in your KPA. The KPA is going to give you the actual questions to ask. So go to your market center. They have the resource to do the KPA. I think they cost $20 a piece until you get to so many of them, depending on your market center, and then they're free from there. And so just make sure that when you're going through that, they're going to give you the questions that you need to ask to dig a little deeper. It's pretty powerful. All right. Any other questions? We'll do it auction style. Going once. Oh, here we go. Okay. So do you prefer doing the disc on someone first and then the KPA later? Yes, I do. I just do that because just use it as a filter tool. It's a nice filter tool for me on that piece of it. All right. Let's see. Was there another question? Did the TC now have a KPA match? That's a good question, and I've not looked at that yet. So I have to check on that. Do me a favor, Valerie, send me an email if you wouldn't mind, and I'll pull that up and confirm that they've got a TC match for the KPA now. Yet I will tell you, don't rely so much on those matches as you would going through the questions and digging deeper with the people. That's kind of where I would suggest they do for a team. All right. Yeah, I said come out a couple of weeks ago. So yes, awesome. Thank you all for answering that question. Now save me the time to go out there and look for it. All right. Woohoo. Ladies and gentlemen, again, it's been a great session. Thank you all so much for the participation, because how you participate in here is how you participate everywhere. So let's go out there. Let's crush this week, and I will see you next Thursday, same bat time, same bat channel at 4 p.m. Eastern time right here. Go out there and be bold.